Our next big story, a rare February tornado touches down in Massachusetts, leaving behind a path of destruction.
The Pinpoint News Tracker shows you where it happened Saturday night in Conway, Massachusetts. And tonight, meteorologist TJ Del Santo and Sky Drone 12 are giving us an extraordinary view of the damage.
The view from Sky Drone 12 shows the enormity of the damage here in western Massachusetts. This is what's left of an antiques barn in the tiny community known as Pumpkin Hollow. That was someone's livelihood.
Folks in the Midwest and Alabama tell us that it sounds like a freight train. It surely does.
Stephen Schneider was just finishing dinner when the tornado blew through and badly damaged both of his homes here.
Windows broken, double paned thermal glass windows, 4 or 5 of those broken. Porch was hit pretty bad. A lot of cleanup.
Schneider said it didn't last more than 2 or 3 minutes. This first February tornado on record for Massachusetts was on the ground for 5 miles and grew to be as large as 2 football fields. This is not a heavily populated area, but the homes in the twister's path were badly damaged. Steve Thomas was choking back tears when recalling the tornado and how it tore the front of his house off, revealing the bathroom, living room, and bedroom. The back of his house was untouched.
Yeah, we were having a dinner party, and there are 2 parts of the house, the timber frame part, which wasn't scratched.
Miraculously, nobody was injured.
Conway Police Chief Ken Ouimet said an ice storm in 2008 was devastating, but not this bad.
As far as damage to people's personal property, this by far is the worst we've seen here.
The sun's out, and rebuild the place and get on with our lives.
And meteorologist TJ Del Santo joining us in studio now. TJ, what was it like being there in person to see the damage?
I've been to a few scenes where tornadoes have come on through, but nothing like the devastation that I saw today. I went to Revere to see that tornado. A lot of damage there up in Revere, just north of Boston, but this one, whole homes were just completely destroyed. Front of a house ripped right off. It looked like a dollhouse. So maybe like you'd play with a doll and move the doll from room to room. That's what the scene was like. Trees on top of houses. I spoke to one gentleman. He was extremely emotional. He couldn't even talk to us. He was just so heartbroken, but he was more glad that his family was in the back of that house where the front was just literally ripped off. He was actually having a dinner party.
Wow.
And everybody was in the right part of the house for that moment.
That's incredible, because there were no injuries at all from this tornado,
Not
right?
one single injury from the tornado. There was a woman who had some minor cuts and scrapes from a tree away from the tornado that fell onto her car, but nothing from the tornado itself.
Now, I was actually working in Western Mass back of June of 2011 when the tornado came through. It didn't hit this part of the state. Back then, though, that was June. It's not necessarily, it's still rare for a tornado in Western Mass, but this is extremely rare being in February.
It's February. This is the first February tornado on record for Massachusetts. They've had 3 tornadoes during winter. Both, the other 2 were in March, I think in 1966 and way back in 1774. Those are the only tornadoes on record for the wintertime in Massachusetts.
And of course there were several deaths in that June tornado, so glad to hear that there were no deaths and no injuries in this one.
It wasn't a wide path. It was about 200 yards, which is actually fairly wide, but it's kind of a sparsely populated area, so there's the good news there. No deaths, no serious injuries at all out there in Western Mass.
Just a lot of cleanup ahead.
Lots of cleanup, yes.
All right, meteorologist TJ Del Santo, thank you so much for joining us.